One second. All right, cool. Now we're live. Hey, my name is Kyle Macatelli. I'm the social media coordinator for Student Doctor Network, and sometimes I can make a broadcast start correctly. Today we're joined by Dr. Lior Krimus from PrepMatch.com. Leo, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself real quick?
Yeah, for sure. You guys can call me Leo, and I'm a resident physician from the University of Toronto. Thanks so much for kind of joining me today. And I'm also the founder of PrepMatch on my nighttime job. And thanks to Kyle and the Student Doctor Network. Kyle, do you need to do any introductions before I go into the presentation?
Please, I wanted to do a
Sure.
quick little resource rundown on Student Doctor Network. So for those of you new to SDN, we are a nonprofit 501c3 that is focused on delivering free resources to pre-health students to help you achieve your goals of becoming a healthcare professional. Please join us at studentdoctor.net. Check out the resources tab. Just go on there and poke around. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but it's a lot better just to go on there and explore for yourself. So our community, we are most known for our forums. I don't remember how many members we have. It's like an astronomical number, though. There are a lot of people on there, everyone from pre-health students like myself to attending physicians who have been doing what they're doing for a long time. If you want to get answers about how to get to that end state goal in any of the following fields that you see there, hop on. The forums are extremely useful. People there are very, very, very helpful. If you've got a question, you're going to get a professional answering it. Confidential expert advice is one of my favorite things. That is where you have a specific question, go ask it confidentially. And again, you're going to have vetted experts that provide you with answers that you know you can rely on. The Pre-Med Planner app. Hey, it's tough to get to medical school. There's a lot of check marks along the way. And the Pre-Med Planner app is something that helps you stay on top of what you're doing. One thing that's really great about it is you can log your clinical hours because man, you really don't want to lose track of that. Med school app cost calculator. This is another great one. Applying to medical school is really expensive. So use the cost calculator to figure out what you need to budget and what you need to know going into that process. Finally, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hop onto YouTube, like and subscribe. We're always putting out new videos, Ask Me Anythings with professionals, helpful resource webinars like this one today. So just keep up with us. And again, thank you guys for joining us. And enough out of me. Leo, please take it away.
Alrighty, perfect. Thanks so much, Kyle. And I actually used Student Doctor Network when I was applying to med school in the day, and when I was applying to residency. So I can, be first and evidence that this works, and it's a really good resource. So I highly, highly encourage you to kind of use it. So let me just share my slides here. Give me just 1 second. Okay. True. Sorry, give me a sec, guys. I thought they were already loaded. Okay. Show. Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. So let me share my screen. Share slides. Share screen. I think it would be easier to just share screen. Entire screen. Okay.
One of these days we'll get it to go smooth.
I know, right? Kyle, can you see my screen?
I can't.
You can't.
There it is.
Oh,
so,
perfect.
yeah, just if you're relying on me, it's a bad scene.
Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. So this is our Casper workshop, and it's presented by PrepMatch. And what is PrepMatch? So PrepMatch was founded here in Toronto, where I'm from, in October of 2020, during kind of like the later part of the first year of the pandemic. And it's a peer-to-peer Casper preparation platform. And our main goal is to increase accessibility to Casper preparation. And we'll talk a bit more about what is Casper, just because I know many people know it, but we'll briefly go over it as well. And we are a collaborative platform where people actually practice for the Casper with one another. And so the way our platform works, very briefly, is that you write a practice Casper test, you grade another person's practice test, they provide feedback on yours, and with that you improve each time, and it's completely free. There's no costs associated with any of this. And the Casper is actually, I honestly always forget, it's a computerized assessment of situational something, and it's basically an online assessment to kind of assess different skills, including your communication, motivation, empathy, professionalism skills. And it's used initially, it was used in medical schools, but now it's found in dental schools, nursing schools, veterinary schools. It's quite popular. It actually started here in Canada as well, in a nearby city called Hamilton, and just spread like wildfire. And the Casper structure changed a bit over the years. And essentially, it's basically 3 scenarios that they give you. And there's 2 types of responses. There's responses where you type out your answers, and the responses as of this year where you actually like record your answers live. So it's like a mini interview. So here's a bit of a slide kind of like going over the new Casper logistics as of this year. So you're going to have 15 scenarios in total. 5 of them are going to be word-based scenarios where you're going to read the scenarios, and 10 scenarios are going to be video-based scenarios. So you'll see some kind of actors act out a scenario. And the way it's going to divide it here is the first part is going to be typed answers, where you basically watch a video and then type out your answers, and watch another video, type out your answers, read a scenario and type out your answers, watch another video and type out your answers. And usually each of these is going to be associated with 3 questions that you have to answer in 5 minutes. So you're going to do this section here. And then the next section also involves a combination of video scenarios like these ones and written scenarios like these ones, where you again read or watch a scenario, but your responses are going to be video responses. So you're actually like answering the questions live on camera. You're being recorded, and you have 1 minute per question they ask for each of the scenarios. So it's a bit different this time. So it's a bit scary for a lot of applicants, but I think it's a step in the right direction, just because I feel like sometimes you can't really convey things with your typing per se, but when you're kind of expressing it live on video, you have more emotions, and you're able to really kind of show your thoughts in a better manner, I think. So I think having the combination of type responses and video responses is definitely an improvement from the Caspers in the previous years. So you also get breaks. For example, you get a 5-minute break after the first 5 scenarios in a type response, and then you get another 10-minute break. You don't have to take them. And then you also get a 30-second reflection time between the scenario and the question for both the video and the written. You can't really go back after a scenario. So once you answer it, that's about it. Grammar and spelling don't count. But obviously, if you start saying gibberish like B, J, D, 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 C, like it has to kind of make sense. But overall, grammar and spelling don't count. They do have technical support available during the test, and it's about 2 hours in length. So, you really have to make sure you're well fed and that you are sitting comfortably, because it's a long 2 hours. It's kind of like writing the MCAT, really. It's you have to prepare to sit that amount of time and really be intensely involved in it. Now, how is the Casper rated? So the Casper, each scenario is rated by a different rater. The average scores are released to the schools you're applying to. So, for example, the 15 scenarios, each one has a rating by a different rater, and then they average it out and release the scores to the schools. You only get to know the quartile you're in. So, for example, are you in the bottom quartile, so the 0 to the 25th percentile, or are you in the top quartile, the 75 to 100th percentile? So you only know that. Unfortunately, you don't know your raw scores. But the big question is, how do they rate it? And no one actually knows. They do get very sophisticated training, but no one actually knows what the rating system is. But on the Casper website, it does say that if you got a bad score, it might be because of the fact that you didn't spend enough time enhancing your answers. You didn't really reflect on your experiences well. You didn't show some of the skills they talked about, like empathy or motivation, or you didn't consider the different viewpoints in the scenario. They're very vague about it, but those are some of the things they mentioned. Now, in order to register for Casper tests, you need to make sure that you have government photo issued ID, that you have good internet connection, that, again, valid email address, and that your camera and microphone are working, because they are recording you during the actual test to make sure that you're not cheating. Now, like I said before, Casper has started in medical schools and spread to dental schools, optometry, nursing schools, etc. But how do you find out whether your program requires Casper? It's actually quite easy. So you go on this website called takealtis.com, which is a company that writes Casper. You go on dates and fees right here. You scroll down, browse the test dates and times. And then you go to, let's say, United States of America, and then you want to go to medicine, allopathic, and also medicine osteopathic. And this basically shows you all the different schools that now require the Casper for their assessments. And as you can see, it's quite a lot. And then once you click on the school, it actually shows you the dates. So for example, if you click on all the schools, it shows you the last possible date available for all selected schools. But if you, let's say, select other schools, again, it will show you different last date available for all schools. So this is a very handy website to really find out which schools require Casper and which deadlines you have to meet. For example, this one is November, the others or December. So make sure to really kind of do your research well so you don't miss out the deadlines. Because, for example, I didn't know that now in Canada, Casper is required for residency spots, some residency spot, and one of the schools that I wanted to apply for residency in actually required Casper, and I completely missed the deadline as a result. So make sure you're on top of the dates. Now, how do you study for the Casper? And so a lot of times people tell you can't study for the Casper, but we here at PrepMatch believe you truly do. And PrepMatch has a lot of benefits. PrepMatch offers you hundreds of questions you can practice, many scenarios. PrepMatch helps you improve your typing. PrepMatch is completely free, and through PrepMatch you can actually think like a reviewer. And I'm going to show you the platform in just a minute. How about, yeah, so in terms of, how about I actually show you the platform, then we go over some Casper writing tips. So this is the PrepMatch website. You can see it here. Actually, this is the official PrepMatch website. You can see it here. And kind of has FAQs and a bunch of other stuff. But once you actually create an account and go over the main website, you can actually go on this section here, which is Start Your Casper Journey, and you can actually take a Casper circuit. So you can do a full 12 scenario circuit, or I mean, it used to be 12, now it's actually 15, but we're going to update that soon. Or you can do random scenarios as well. So for example, you can do a set of random scenarios, and you can do let's say 10 scenarios or 4 random scenarios, and you can see if if you want it to be timed. Sometimes at the start of your practice, maybe you don't want it to be timed, or you just want to take your time. You can choose whether you want it to be peer reviewed. You can always, if at the end, go back to the question and select or deselect whether you want it to be peer reviewed. And sometimes we do have test taking tips as well, so you can have those shown as well. And then you read the guidelines, and basically you'll be shown a Casper scenario. And you have the timer here, and then all you do is you just click next when you're ready, and you type out your answers. And you click next, and then you'll have another scenario. And again, you can either do the random scenarios we talked about, or you can do a full circuit. And we have different circuits available, and they were actually rated by our users, who rate them either moderate or easy. So those are user-rated scenarios. So the first ones, these few are easy, these few are moderate. So you get to choose. And then once you're actually done the scenario, you can actually review your answers. So for example, these are the answers I just typed. And so it took me 19 seconds. Usually it's not that fast. And you can actually see the answers and see your typing speed for those answers. And you can actually talk about whether you want them to be reviewed or not. So for example, this one is peer reviewed, reviewable, and you can actually change that later on. Now, how do you actually see other people's answers? So you actually can go here, review a peer's answer, and these are the answers that different people gave for scenarios. So for example, you can see people's scenario and their answers here, and then all you do is you provide feedback here. You rate it from 4 to 5. You talk about what they did well. You talk about what they can improve on, and we also have guidelines on how to properly give feedback. And remember, you are rated on your feedback. So if you give poor feedback, I don't mean bad feedback, because sometimes negative feedback is also helpful, but like poor feedback, we're like, great job, nicely done, then you're not going to be matched with people who give good feedback. So make sure the mechanism behind PrepMatch matches you with people that give good feedback. So try your best to give good feedback, and the more feedback you give, the more actually feedback you get yourself. So there's lots of mechanisms to try to encourage user flow in the platform. And so this is pretty much PrepMatch. Now, a lot of you have been asking me over email, well, now with the video Casper response, how do you actually practice for that? And it's interesting because last year we started developing our interview prep feature. And within the interview prep feature, we kind of like spun it to include Casper prep as well. So let me show you the interview prep feature. It's not out yet. I mean, some people have been trialing it. And if you are interested in trialing it, do give us an email at support@prepmatch.com. But this is our interview prep feature. So it's available only on certain testing accounts. I'll just show it to you, where you can actually schedule and join interview sessions. So for example, here is a session being hosted by another one of my accounts where you can join it. And it's someone preparing for the Casper video answers. And so you can join it. And so here, join the session. And you can actually, what you can do is you can actually get notified when a certain session is booked at a time that works for you. So for example, now I get notifications for Monday morning. So if someone books a session for Monday mornings that is a medical school interview, then I'll get a notification. But I can do like, please notify me when someone books a session on Tuesday evenings that deals with Casper video answers. And so I'll get notified about that. And again, it matches my time zone. So time zones are accounted for in this in the platform. And so how do you actually run a session? So that's pretty interesting. So you can join other people's sessions, or you can run your own session. And so we're going to schedule our own session right now. So we're going to run it right now. So we're going to press this. We're going to make it a Casper video answers. So, I mean, typically people study for like their medical school MMIs and stuff like that, but right now we're going to study for the video portion of Casper. And we're going to insert a sample description. And we're going to publish this session and read the guidelines, and we're going to create it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to launch, and usually there'll be a user on the other end. And so we use a platform called Jitsi. So you just have to kind of close any extension, and then you're going to join right here. So I'm going to just join it over video, and you'll have someone on the other end. And what you can do is you can just generate scenarios. So for example, we're doing Casper scenarios. So this is going to generate Casper scenarios. And so the other person on this, your partner is going to be answering these 3 questions live, and you can actually time them, and they're going to see the timer. So the timer and these questions are synced. So whatever the timer shows here, whatever the questions show here, your partner will see. So as soon as they're ready to answer the first question, you can time them, and then you can actually, block your screen as well. So you can appear like the big brother watching them, like the Casper would be. And then we can alternate where it's your turn now to answer these questions, where they'll present another Casper scenario that you have to read, and then you will be answering these 3 questions. So it's an awesome mechanism to practice for the video portion of Casper. And then you can type the feedback here on the chat function, but you can also leave your feedback here for them to refer to later, and that's how you can do that. So it's pretty cool. It's something we're very, very excited about. So let me go back to your presentation here. So as you can see, you can study for the Casper, both the original Casper and the new one, which incorporates video answers. And some of the basic Casper tips we usually share with people is that speed is very important, right? It's, you can have all the thoughts in the world, but if you don't have the time to show them on paper, it's very important for you to practice your typing speed. And I think that's the biggest advantage with PrepMatch, is it allows you to practice your typing speed. Be firm with your decisions. What I mean by that is that if you have your kind of thoughts, and then at the last minute you decide those thoughts don't work, don't delete everything, because you don't have time to reframe it. It's better to have a less than perfect thought or decision and actually have points there than have nothing. Brainstorm key events in your life. What I mean by that is that a few days and weeks before the Casper, it's very important for you to reflect on experiences, including strengths, weaknesses, times you had conflicts. Conflicts are very important to reflect on, just because that allows you to kind of get those experiences in your mind, because very often Casper questions do ask about those experiences. And just remember to be a good person. Consider everyone's points. Don't be stuck to one idea. Consider everyone's points. Just be generally a good person. And things to consider in answers are things like, what is the main issue here? Who is involved in this scenario? And how do the relationships between them play a part? So different relationships include supervisor-student relationships, partner relationships, like you and your partner, romantic partner, get into conflict. How does that affect your relationship? Obviously with supervisor-student, there's power dynamics there. So how do those relationships play a part? what are the various options and which one you will go with, and which option you choose and why. And again, you're not gonna have all this in every single question, but it's important to consider all these points when kind of formulating your answers. And so I just want to share some feedback. I feel like people really like us on Reddit, which is heartwarming to see. And we also get amazing emails like this, which kind of encourages us to continue having PrepMatch online and to continue improving it for people to use. So yeah, this is basically the presentation, and our website is prepmatch.com, and you can always email us at support@prepmatch.com. I'm going to leave it here for a few minutes. I'm just wondering, are there any questions from you guys here? So I'm just going to go back here.
We do have a couple of questions. There's one from a LinkedIn user. I can't actually respond on LinkedIn in real time, so apologies on the delay here.
Let me stop sharing my screen for a second.
Yeah, we got the infinity view going.
Yeah, definitely have this infinity view here. Okay,
I got you.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. So is Casper only used for medical schools in Canada, or most in the US require it as well?
So as you saw before, there's I think around 60 medical schools in the US now require it. So it's quite a big number. And so the website is takealtis.com. So make sure to go on takealtis. Oh, am I sharing again? Okay, so make sure you go on takealtis.com and you'll see the list. But about 60 medical schools require it now. So make sure to double check that your medical school requires it, just because you don't want to be one of those people that passes the deadline, and unfortunately after that there's nothing you can do.
And the follow-up there was, what website, where can I go? And that's takealtis.com/Casper. That has everything you need to know. So next question, I almost hesitate to put this one up because it brings up another can of worms. And that is, do you have to provide video responses on the main Casper exam, or is that just for Duet and Snapshot? Now I have to ask, well, what is Duet and Snapshot? I already have to worry about Casper.
Yeah,
there's another thing now.
Yeah, so Duet and Snapshot are kind of new experiments, I would say, that Casper is using. They're not as well formulated as the original Casper exam. So Snapshot is, for example, is similar to kind of like the video response, where it's like they ask you a question. It's more like personal interview questions, and then your responses get recorded. And then Duet is kind of more so asking you how it's like a multiple choice Casper, where you kind of select which answer you would go with, and based on that, it kind of spits out your characteristics to the schools. It's the reason we haven't really formulated any prep for Snapshot and Duet yet is because, again, they're very, very new. They're very new, so we don't really talk about them as much. We're still trying to get an understanding of how to best prepare for them and how schools utilize them. That's where we kind of focus on the main Casper exam. But right now, the video responses are in the main Casper exam. So they're not just in Snapshot as before. They're now in the main Casper exam. So it's very important for people to actually prepare for the video responses as well. And so we're planning to launch the interview prep feature in PrepMatch soon. So hopefully you'll be able to practice for the video response for the main Casper as well.
Okay, thank you, Laura, for that question. Okay, so a question I have is, I'm applying to med school next year. I'm already, I'm gearing up for the MCAT. What would you tell students who are kind of on the fence about, like, oh, do I really want to take Casper or not? We've seen, like, this thing is just spreading a whole lot. Why do students need to take the time to prepare for this and not just, just kind of pencil whip it, if you will?
Definitely. I mean, like you saw, again, in the US, almost 60 medical schools now required. It's a significant portion of medical schools. And I always tell people that, medical school, dental school, veterinary school, no matter what school you apply for, a big portion of your application is pure luck. Right? There's so much subjectivity. You never know who's reading your application. You never know what words your referees are going to use. There's such a big subjective component. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure you cover all your bases that are not up to just pure luck, right? And Casper is one of those bases. You want to make sure you get the biggest quartile, so at least you get you take care of this objective factor, right? So you don't want to leave it to the last day. I mean, sometimes you have people who leave it to the last day and get fourth quartile, which is fantastic, and it happens often. But again, most of the time people prepare, and you need to prepare for the Casper, because even if you have the most incredible kind of test taking abilities and you're very ethically knowledgeable to say, the good thing about kind of PrepMatch is it allows you to prepare for the Casper environment. It allows you to sit there for those 2 hours and really take the test. So I highly encourage people to like prepare for it. I think most people regret not preparing enough for the Casper rather than oh, why did I prepare for this, rather than that. So make sure you do prepare for the Casper, because trust me, you're not gonna regret over preparing. It's like for the MCAT, you never regret like over preparing. You regret not preparing enough.
Cool. All right, we got another question. Do you have any suggestions on how much time to set aside to prepare for Casper?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. This is, everyone's different. Everyone has a different baseline. I would say average, from what I hear, is about 2 to 3 weeks, I think, is average. Some people,
that's not as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, people think it's like 4 months. I don't think it's 4 months. Well, it depends. 2 to 3 weeks intensely. If you do like once a week, then maybe you're looking more in the realm of like months. But if you're intensely like near daily practice, I think 2 to 3 weeks is average. I mean, some people only do like a week. Some people do 6 months. So it's different. But 2 to 3 weeks of intense studying is probably average.
Okay, cool. If you guys have any questions, please keep them coming. All right, so I've got another test to take. I have to put in another few weeks of intensive preparation. Okay. All right.
I know. It never stops. Even in residency right now, I just have more and more tests. Even after medical school, it just keeps on going, unfortunately. I know.
So the nice thing about Casper is it's going to get us used to like, hey, you're going to take a lot of tests. Just get used to it.
Exactly. But also, Casper is usually done before the interview season. And so a lot of the stuff in Casper deals with ethics and ethical considerations and knowing, ethical principles and, when to act, when to report, those kind of things that reappear in interviews. So I think, if you are frustrated about Casper, think of it as like a preview for interviews as well. So this is kind of like the things I sometimes tell people. And then Emil Chuck also says, anecdotally, it doesn't matter if you take the test early versus later. It's hard to say, really. I mean, it depends on the school. I mean, sometimes schools have, like schools in the US, for example, do have like early acceptances. So sometimes taking the Casper helps with those, but some schools, it doesn't matter. So it really depends on school policy. For example, in Canada, schools don't have like early acceptances. Everyone submits on the same day. Everyone gets their acceptance or rejection on the same day. So it doesn't matter whether they take it early or late. But in the States, it really depends per school. So I recommend kind of looking at the specific schools you're applying to and seeing what their specific policy is.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that question. All right. So that's if there's any other pre-health students out there, you're probably just like me digesting that I'm not going to be able to just get through this quickly. Yeah, I figured like, okay, I'm gearing up for the MCAT. That's the big thing right there. But this is not something that should be slept on. It's I don't know if you can answer this, but do you know if schools in Canada weigh Casper more heavily than schools in the United States do? Or is it kind of a black box? We just don't know.
It's a black box, but for example, McMaster University, a school where Casper actually originated in, so it's the original Casper school. For medical school, it's a third of their application score, so it's 33% off there, or 30%. I think it's 30% because it's like 30% GPA, 30% CARS, 30% Casper, and then like 1 to 10% based on if they have a graduate degree or not. They don't actually look at like extracurriculars and stuff like that and other portions. It's an interesting school in terms of like the admission criteria, but over there, Casper counts for like a third of the of their like admission score.
I'm like pretty good at cars, so I'm going to see if they take Americans.
Yeah, they do. I think they do. So definitely,
okay.
McMaster University, the original school where Casper came from.
Okay, interesting. Man, so one thing I can speak to is the interactive video platform that you showed us. I have hopped on there with you before. It is useful, and it's a good way just to get that real-time feedback. So I'll make sure that we include that link in the YouTube description of this video for everyone. Yeah, it seems like it's kind of like the MCAT in terms of every resource you have to prepare, you should be utilizing.
Exactly. And I think, like I said before, you're never going to regret preparing too much. You're going to regret not preparing enough. So try it out. I encourage you to try it out. And if you have any feedback, I'm always welcome to feedback. For example, when I was doing the interview preparation with Kyle, I noticed a lot of things that can be improved. So, for example, we kind of now have time zones where we sync the time zones. We now have email notifications so you get notified about sessions. Now we have like sync in terms of the timer and the questions, so both users can see the same time and see the same questions. So it's pretty cool, actually. So we're very excited for that.
Okay, cool. I think I'm out of questions. If there's any other questions the audience has, please keep them rolling in. Yeah, man, it's just
maybe we'll give one more minute. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to go to PrepMatch.com, try it out. We also have a chat function at the bottom. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and we'll try to answer as soon as possible. If not, leave your email, and we'll email you. Or we have like our main email, support@PrepMatch.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, you'd think I would have been a little bit more mentally prepared for this. Like, I knew I had it on my radar. Like, all right, I'm going to have to take Casper. Like, okay, I'm going to have to take the preview test. The AAMC changed their situational judgment test, is now called preview. And like, I just kind of thought like, oh, well, whatever, the MCAT's a big one, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, oh, no, this is serious too.
I know. It's a lot, but it's just one of those things you have to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, so there's what I'm learning here is that there's no free pass part of the med school application.
No, unfortunately, but PrepMatch is free, so it's as free as as it gets. When will your live launch? It's a good question. So right now we're kind of like at the final stages, so it should be available in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks. We're now working on like revamping our homepage to reflect the interview feature, and so it should be ready for the US interview. So even if you're not using it for Casper, it's an excellent platform to use for interviews. So it should be ready for that. And I think, Kyle, maybe I'll give you a shout out, you and the rest of the student know when it's ready. So maybe we can help spread the word out about that.
Yes, please do.
Perfect. Alrighty. Perfect.
Cool.
Awesome, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for taking the time to, let us know more about Casper, how to use PrepMatch.com to prepare, emphasizing that preparation is a must. This is not just, you can't sleep on this, especially since, as we saw, there's a lot of med schools in the United States. It sounds like it's pretty much just a thing in Canada for med school and residencies. Casper's going nowhere. These situational judgment tests are only going to become more important, it seems like.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Kyle. Thanks so much.
Yeah, for sure.
I know Laura is here or was here, so thanks so much, Laura, for joining. She probably heard this presentation so many times. So thank you, everybody. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Awesome, Leah. Thank you for taking the time out. We know you're busy. PrepMatch.com. Go there. Get online with it. Start prepping for Casper now instead of letting it go. Oh man, I have to rework my entire timeline and plan now.
All right, bye everybody.
All right, everybody have a good one. Thank you for joining us again. Visit www.prepmatch.com and start your preparation now. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.